Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. The Washington Commanders have reached the midpoint of the 2025 NFL season, standing on the edge of a cliff, staring down into the abyss of yet another lost campaign. A team that once brimmed with confidence and ambition after a promising offseason now finds itself gasping for air after suffering its fourth consecutive defeat, tumbling to a disappointing 3-6 record. What was once painted as a season of redemption and resurgence has quickly turned into a grim narrative of frustration, missed opportunities, and devastating injuries. Washington fans, who spent months daring to believe that the winds of change had finally arrived, are now watching their team unravel in real time, week after week, as the dream of consecutive playoff appearances fades into the distance. The Commanders' collapse has been as swift as it has been brutal. Every Sunday, the same painful pattern repeats itself, flashes of potential drowned out by turnovers, defensive lapses, and the creeping inevitability of defeat. It's not just that the Commanders are losing, it's how they're losing. The energy that once defined this young, electric roster has drained away, leaving behind a team that looks lost, confused, and demoralized. And while no one could have predicted the sheer number of injuries that have plagued this squad, even the healthiest teams can't survive when their spirit breaks. The Commanders entered the season with big names and bigger hopes, but right now, they're a team searching for answers in all the wrong places. In the latest NFL Power Rankings by Eric Edholm of NFL.com, Washington has dropped 6 spots to 24th, a symbolic freefall that perfectly mirrors their on-field struggles. Edholm's assessment was blunt, almost prophetic in tone. I got a little blowback on DC radio this summer when I said that this was not a complete roster and that a fallback was possible, he wrote. But I didn't know it would go this way. He didn't have to say more. Anyone who's watched the Commanders in recent weeks knows exactly what he means. The team that once played with swagger now plays with fear. The offense that once dazzled with creativity now sputters and stalls. And the defense, once the heart and identity of this franchise, now looks like a shadow of itself, shredded by opposing offenses with alarming ease. Injuries have been the cruelest twist of all. It's one thing to lose games. It's another to lose your stars in the process. In last week's loss to the Seattle Seahawks, the Commanders' luck, or perhaps their lifeline, ran out. Cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, one of the few bright spots on defense, is out for the season. Promising rookie wide receiver Luke McCaffrey, who had shown glimpses of brilliance, is gone as well. And then there's quarterback Jayden Daniels, the young leader, the face of the franchise, the player who was supposed to define the next era of Commanders football. Daniels dislocated his elbow late in the blowout loss, a cruel and unnecessary moment in a game that was already lost. His recovery is uncertain, and his absence looms large over a team already running on fumes. Daniels' injury felt like the final gut punch, the moment that broke the collective will of the Commanders' faithful. Down by 31 points with 8 minutes left, he was still fighting, still trying to make something happen. But football is a brutal sport, and fate can be merciless. When Daniels went down clutching his arm, the stadium fell silent, the air sucked out of the building. The Commanders didn't just lose a quarterback that night, they lost their heartbeat. With Daniels sidelined, the team will now turn to veteran Marcus Mariota, a player known for his professionalism and composure, but whose best years are far behind him. Mariota is the definition of a stopgap, steady, experienced, but unlikely to spark the kind of resurgence Washington desperately needs. And in a league where momentum means everything, the Commanders have none. The locker room tells the story better than any stat sheet. You can see it in the slumped shoulders, the 1,000-yard stares, the frustration boiling just beneath the surface. Players talk about trusting the process, but even that phrase feels hollow now. Every loss cuts deeper. Every mistake feels heavier. Every injury compounds the hopelessness. The Commanders are spiraling, and no one seems able to stop the fall. Head coach Dan Quinn, who came into the season with the reputation of a motivator and a culture builder, now faces the most difficult challenge of his tenure, keeping his team from completely imploding before December. The defense, once the pride of Washington, has become a glaring liability. Missed tackles, blown coverages, and a lack of intensity have turned a once-feared unit into one of the league's most inconsistent groups. It's not that they lack talent. They have playmakers like Frankie Louvu, Jonathan Allen, and Darren Payne, but cohesion and discipline have disappeared. The Commanders have given up big plays in bunches, and when they do manage to force a stop, the offense often responds with a 3-and-out, sending a fatigued defense right back onto the field. It's a vicious cycle, and the results have been catastrophic. Frankie Louvu's situation epitomizes the chaos surrounding this team. The linebacker, known for his fiery play and aggressive edge, was slapped with a suspension for a third hip drop tackle this season, a move that has become one of the NFL's most controversial penalties. Fans were furious, arguing that Louvu was being unfairly targeted, especially considering how often quarterback Jaden Daniels took hits with no flags in sight. It felt like another case of Washington being on the wrong end of the league's inconsistencies. Thankfully, common sense prevailed when the Commanders appealed the decision. The suspension was lifted, though Louvu was fined $100,000, a small price to pay compared to what he would have lost by missing a game. Still, the message from the league was clear: one more misstep, and the punishment will be far worse. For Louvu, the challenge now is psychological as much as physical. He can't afford to play timidly, not when his team needs every ounce of his intensity to survive. But he also knows that every tackle he makes will be scrutinized, every hit dissected in slow motion. It's an impossible balance, playing with aggression while constantly second-guessing yourself. Yet that's the reality he faces. Louvu is one of the emotional leaders of this defense, a player whose fire often ignites those around him. If he pulls back, even subconsciously, the ripple effect could be disastrous. And with the Commanders already depleted, his presence means more now than ever. The NFL's crackdown on dangerous tackles is understandable, but to many fans, it feels like selective enforcement. Louvu's punishment sparked outrage not just in Washington, but among neutral observers who see the inconsistencies week after week. The league claims to prioritize player safety, yet how often have we seen quarterbacks like Daniels get drilled without consequence? The perception, right or wrong, is that the Commanders are being singled out, and that narrative only deepens the us-against-the-world mentality inside the locker room. The problem is, that mentality only works when you're winning. When you're losing, it just feels like another weight, dragging you down. And make no mistake, the Commanders are sinking fast. With a brutal stretch of games ahead, including matchups against playoff contenders like the Lions, Cowboys, and 49ers, there's no easy path forward. Every game feels like an uphill climb. And with Mariota under center, the offense will have to lean heavily on a battered running game and a patchwork offensive line. The defense, meanwhile, must rediscover its identity or risk completely falling apart. Washington fans are already bracing for the worst, remembering too well how quickly hope can turn into despair in this franchise's history. Still, buried beneath all the frustration, there remains a faint glimmer of pride, a stubborn refusal to quit. Maybe it's the culture Quinn has tried to instill, or maybe it's just the resilience of players like Louvu, Allen, and Terry McLaurin, who continue to give everything despite the circumstances. The Commanders may be down, but they're not devoid of fight. They've been written off before. They've been mocked, doubted, dismissed. And while this season may already be lost in the standings, there's still something to play for: dignity, growth, and the foundation for whatever comes next. The reality, though, is harsh. The Commanders are no longer just losing games, they're losing belief. And in the NFL, once belief slips away, it's almost impossible to get it back. The power rankings may just be numbers on a screen, but they tell a painful truth about where this franchise stands. 24th in the league, limping into the back half of the season, held together by tape and hope. The story of the 2025 Washington Commanders is no longer about potential or promise. It's about survival. And for a team that once dreamed of glory, that might be the hardest thing to accept. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. Hold on to your seats, football fans, because the NFL rumor mill is spinning faster than ever, and this one might just shake the league to its core. According to reports that are buzzing through ESPN and making waves across every social media platform, The Washington Commanders have officially struck a deal that could completely transform their pass rush dynamic. Yes, you heard that right. Trey Hendrickson, one of the most talked-about defensive ends in the league, is reportedly heading to Washington, and the implications of this move are huge. The whispers began circulating quietly, subtle mentions in sports podcasts and insiders' Twitter feeds, but the moment ESPN confirmed it, the story exploded, sending Commanders fans into a frenzy. Imagine a defensive line that suddenly has a game-changing edge rusher, someone who can dominate the pocket, collapse it in a matter of seconds, and make quarterbacks think twice before stepping up. Well, that's exactly what Hendrickson brings to the table. For those who might not be fully familiar with Trey Hendrickson, let's break it down a bit. He's a professional NFL player currently with the Cincinnati Bengals, but his journey started long before that. Hendrickson played college football with the Florida Atlantic Owls, where he made a name for himself with relentless energy, impeccable technique, and a tenacity that scouts drooled over. The New Orleans Saints recognized his potential and picked him in the third round of the 2017 NFL Draft. Since then, he's evolved into a seasoned defensive force, known for racking up sacks and disrupting offensive schemes in ways that can alter the course of a game. And now, the Commanders are reportedly adding this kind of firepower to their defensive arsenal, which could elevate their entire defensive identity. The buzz around this trade isn't just about Hendrickson's stats, though they are undeniably impressive. It's about the narrative it creates. Washington has been searching for a true game-changer in their pass rush, someone who can tip the scales in tight matchups against powerhouse quarterbacks. Rumors had swirled about multiple targets over the past few months, with fans speculating endlessly about which veteran could finally arrive and make a difference. And while there was some chatter about free agency options, Hendrickson's name kept resurfacing, almost like a recurring whisper that refused to go away. Once the ESPN confirmation landed, the speculation shifted from "could this happen?" to "how will this reshape the Commanders' defense?" Analysts are already dissecting every angle. Hendrickson is not just a consistent sacker. He's a player who can create chaos in the backfield, force hurried decisions, and pressure quarterbacks into mistakes that shift momentum instantly. Imagine pairing him with an already solid front line, and suddenly Washington's defense isn't just competent, it's borderline terrifying. Rumors suggest the team has structured the contract in a way that keeps the pressure on for immediate impact, signaling that the front office is serious about not just signing a big name, but about transforming their identity on defense. The locker room dynamics are reportedly buzzing as well. Veterans and young players alike are said to be energized by the possibility of learning from someone like Hendrickson, who has honed his craft over several seasons and proven he can perform at the highest level consistently. The timing of this deal adds another layer to the intrigue. The NFL offseason is a period filled with strategy, speculation, and calculated risks, but this move seems to have the hallmarks of a statement. The Commanders are serious about contending, and they're sending a message across the league. Opposing teams, especially those in their division, are now in a position where they must reassess game plans, blocking schemes, and quarterback protections. Suddenly, matchups that seemed predictable might require complete rethinking. Fans are already taking to forums, Twitter threads are exploding, and highlight reels of Hendrickson's career are being dissected frame by frame to imagine just how this player could fit into Washington's defensive schemes. The narrative is electric. A team hungry for identity, a player at his peak potential, and a rumor that's now official, but still feels like it's only just beginning to unfold. Of course, with any big move like this, speculation runs wild. Some pundits are questioning how Hendrickson will adapt to a new system, whether his style will mesh seamlessly with the current defensive coordinator's philosophy, and if the hype matches the reality. Yet, if you look at Hendrickson's career trajectory, the signs are overwhelmingly positive. His time with the Saints and the Bengals has shown he's versatile, resilient, and capable of elevating those around him. Rumors from insiders hint at the possibility of this signing triggering additional moves. Other pieces of the defense might shift, new rotations could be implemented, and the Commanders' entire approach to pass rush might see a modern, aggressive facelift. The media is abuzz with the potential ripple effects, and fans are eagerly awaiting the first preseason games to witness this evolution in action. Even beyond the stats and strategy, there's a story here about momentum and perception. Washington has been under scrutiny for years regarding their defensive identity, often criticized for lacking a true edge rusher presence. Hendrickson's arrival might not just change the scoreboard. It might redefine the team's narrative, signaling that Washington is willing to take bold moves to secure its place as a contender. The ESPN confirmation acts as the tipping point in this narrative, giving the rumor legs and prompting heated debates, passionate hot takes, and a wave of optimism among fans who have long waited for a splash acquisition. The buzz isn't just about one player. It's about the possibility of a cultural shift within the franchise itself. Social media reactions are pouring in, with clips of Hendrickson's career highlights going viral, fans imagining him in the burgundy and gold, and former players weighing in on what this could mean for the defensive rotation. The rumor mill doesn't stop, of course. Every practice report, every interview, and every subtle hint from the coaching staff is now analyzed for confirmation or contradiction. But even if the move is still in its infancy, the storyline is already larger than life. Trey Hendrickson heading to the Commanders, a pass rush poised to terrify quarterbacks, and a fan base dreaming of a defensive turnaround that could finally make them feared once again. In the end, this isn't just a signing. It's a narrative waiting to be written. The Commanders are betting on Hendrickson to change the game, to bring intensity, pressure, and that intangible force of nature element that keeps offenses on edge. Whether it fully works out will unfold over the season, but the rumor has already created a buzz, a sense of anticipation, and a storyline that could dominate headlines for months. ESPN's confirmation has solidified what had been whispered, but the real story is only beginning as fans, analysts, and rival teams alike brace for the impact of this potential defensive revolution. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.